I was sitting in a meeting last week,
Mm.
and it was, high stakes, everyone in suits. The air conditioning was the only sound.
Right, that kind of sterile environment.
Exactly. And I felt this distinct tightness in my chest, just a knot.
Okay,
And immediately my internal monologue it started screaming at me.
what did it say?
The usual stuff. Stop it. Be professional. Push that down. Focus on the spreadsheet. It's a script, I think. Well, I think almost everyone listening knows it by heart.
Oh, absolutely. We are trained from birth almost
Yeah.
to see feelings as these messy, irrational intruders that get in the way of our nice, clean plans.
Yes. Emotion is the noise. Logic is the signal. That's the rule.
That is the prevailing narrative, isn't it?
Yeah.
We treat emotion like static on a radio. The goal of a mature adult is to just filter it out so you can hear the real signal.
Which we assume is logic.
Always.
But today, we're doing a deep dive into a text that just completely flips the table on that assumption. It takes that script I just described.
The one telling you to suppress the tightness in your chest.
Yeah. And it shreds it. The source material we're copying argues that what we call feelings, they're not noise. They're actually a piece of high-tech equipment.
It's a really radical reframe.
Yeah.
The text posits that what we typically dismiss as, feminine feelings, and we can get into that term in a bit,
Right.
are actually a sophisticated, high-speed form of intelligence.
See, that's a massive claim.
It is. The central argument is that this intelligence is actually faster, more precise, and frankly, more rational than the logical mind we all worship.
I have to admit, as someone who finds a lot of comfort in logic, in data, in things I can prove on a whiteboard, I'm a little skeptical.
I get that.
I'm the guy who tries to think his way out of anxiety. So for today, I'm positioning myself as the inquirer here.
Perfect.
I want to believe this, but you're going to have to walk me through the mechanics. How can a feeling be smarter than a thought?
That's the perfect place to start. And just to clarify for everyone, when the text uses the term feminine, it's not really about gender. It's referring to an archetype, a mode of perception that's more receptive and intuitive, as opposed to that force-based linear logic we usually rely on.
Got it. So this is a mode of operating that any of us can access.
Precisely. So let's look at the foundational assertion in the text. It says this: "My feminine feelings are not reactions. They are signals of coherence or distortion."
Okay, stop right there. Not reactions. That's the first hurdle for me. Because if someone cuts me off in traffic and I get that flash of anger, that feels like a reaction. Stimulus A happens, I react with emotion B, it feels like a reflex.
And in our traditional understanding, it is. We see emotion as secondary, a byproduct of an event. You poke me, I say ouch.
Right.
But this text is arguing that the feeling isn't the reflex. It's a measurement.
A measurement.
Yeah, think of it less like a person screaming because they're startled and more like a Geiger counter clicking because it detected radiation.
Okay, I like that.
The Geiger counter isn't reacting emotionally to the uranium. It's detecting an invisible property of the environment. It's reading the data.
So back to my meeting. That knot in my chest wasn't me being nervous or weak. You're saying the text would argue I was detecting something.
Exactly. The text argues you are detecting a structural distortion in the room. Maybe someone was lying about the numbers. Maybe there was a hidden agenda.
Huh.
The text says, "I do not feel randomly. My feelings arise when reality is either agreeing with me or resisting my truth."
Resisting my truth. That sounds a little esoteric. What does that look like on a Tuesday afternoon?
It's basically collision detection. If a situation is honest, if it's coherent, you feel flow. There's no friction.
Okay.
But there's a lie or a threat or a misalignment of values that creates resistance. Your nervous system literally bumps up against it.
And we label that friction anxiety or anger.
Or dread. But the text is inviting us to stop looking at the friction as a character flaw and start looking at it as a data point.
That changes the whole question. It goes from what is wrong with me to what is this feeling telling me?
Correct. And this brings us to the speed of this intelligence.
Yeah.
The text calls feeling the fastest form of intelligence I have.
Faster than the brain.
Much faster than the conscious processing of the brain. The text explains it like this. It tells me when something is aligned before my mind explains it.
I've definitely had that experience. You meet someone, a potential business partner, a date, whatever,
Sure.
and on paper, they are perfect. They're saying all the right things. They look the part. My logical brain is just checking boxes. Safe, successful, polite. But my stomach is doing backflips. My body is practically screaming, run!
We usually tell the body to shut up.
Oh, absolutely. I tell myself I'm being judgmental or paranoid.
But that dynamic is exactly what the text is analyzing. Your linear mind, the the box checker, is low bandwidth. It can process language, visible cues, but this feminine intelligence is processing everything else. Tone of voice, micro expressions, the energy in the room, historical pattern matching from your entire life.
It's taking in terabytes of data.
And synthesizing it into a single output.
And that output is the bad vibe.
Yes. The feeling is the executive summary. It's the conclusion from a massive data set that your conscious mind just didn't have time to read.
So when the text says they are measurements, not moods, it's validating that hunch.
It's saying that hunch is actually the most rigorous data analysis happening in the room.
Wow.
It detects alignment or misalignment. It's almost binary in that sense. It's an engineering assessment. Is this structure coherent? Does it hold together? Or is there distortion?
I really like that engineering angle. It depersonalizes the whole thing.
Right.
If you're building a bridge and the steel starts to groan, you don't send the bridge to therapy. You don't tell it to have a better attitude.
You look for the load that's causing the stress.
You look for the load. That's a perfect analogy.
And the groan of the bridge, it isn't a mood. It's physics. And if you ignore it because you want the bridge to be quiet and polite,
right,
well,
the bridge collapses. Which is the terrifying thought, but it leads us perfectly into the next big concept here.
Okay.
We've talked about detection. Now let's talk about the structure itself. The text uses a word that, I'll be honest, usually makes me tune out.
Let me guess. Softness.
Yeah, I can see you knew that was coming. In the world I operate in, soft just means weak. It means you get eaten alive.
It means you crumble under pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the text seems to be using a different definition of physics here.
It is. It's tackling that misconception head on. The text argues, softness is what allows structure to form without breaking.
Okay.
It's contrasting softness not with strength, but with rigidity.
Rigidity.
The quote is, what is too rigid collapses. What is responsive endures. Think about a skyscraper in an earthquake. Or an airplane wing in turbulence.
Right. The wing has to flex. If it stayed perfectly stiff, it would just snap off.
Exactly. It has to be soft enough or, compliant enough to absorb the energy of the storm. If it fights the energy, if it meets force with rigid force, it fails.
So the text applies this to our psychology.
Yes.
Yeah.
It suggests that this softness is actually the capacity to integrate reality without being destroyed by it.
So softness in this context isn't about being a doormat. It's about shock absorption.
It's about structural integrity through responsiveness. There's a line here I think is crucial. The feminine does not force outcomes. It holds coherence until outcomes arrange themselves.
Holds coherence until outcomes arrange themselves. Yeah. That sounds beautiful, but also agonizingly patient.
Oh, no.
I'm a fixer. I see a problem. I want to force a solution. I want to grab the outcome by the throat and just make it happen.
That's the force-based logic again. And look, sometimes force work for short-term goals, but it often creates more distortion.
Right.
The text suggests a strategy of patience without suppression.
Okay, patience without suppression. I need you to unpack that. Because for me, patience usually feels like suppression. It feels like biting my tongue and sitting on my hands while my blood boils.
That's because you're viewing patience as passive waiting. You're holding yourself stiff against the situation. That's rigidity.
So what's the alternative?
Patience without suppression means you are fully breathing. You're present.
Yeah.
You're feeling everything in the room. You aren't forcing the result, but you aren't checking out either.
Yeah.
You're holding the space.
So let's apply this. Say I'm in a heated argument with a partner or a colleague. Rigidity would be yelling back, meeting force with force.
Or shutting down and stonewalling.
Yeah. What does the softness look like in that moment?
It looks like staying intact. You hear the anger. You let it hit your sensors. You feel the impact. But you don't become the anger.
You don't dissolve into it.
Exactly. You observe it as data. Okay, there is high distortion here. You hold your own coherence, your own calm, and you allow the energy to move through the space without knocking over your internal furniture.
It's dynamic stability versus static stability.
Say more about that.
Well, static stability is a stone wall. A cannonball will eventually knock it down. Dynamic stability is like a gyroscope. It can take a hit, but it stays upright.
Yes. And the text argues that this is actually a position of immense power. I create continuity, not confusion.
So when you don't react, you become the tuning fork in the room.
You become a tuning fork.
Right.
Eventually, the room starts to resonate with you rather than you vibrating with the chaos of the room.
That leads us to this concept of original order. We touched on it, but the text makes a very specific and I think controversial claim about the sequence of how we process life.
It says, my understanding comes through feeling first, then organizes into thought.
Which is the part that flips our whole educational system on its head.
Completely. We are taught, think,
Mm-hmm.
analyze, conclude, and then maybe have a feeling about it later.
Right. Data first, emotion second. Or preferably emotion never.
But the text calls that backward. It says, this is not chaos. It is original order. The argument is that because feeling is the data ingestion, it's the raw feed, it must come first.
So if you think before you feel, you're analyzing an incomplete data set.
You're trying to edit the movie before you've even shot the footage.
It's a powerful image. The feeling is the raw footage. The thought is post-production.
Exactly. And if you edit without watching the footage, you're just making things up. You're creating a fantasy. The text says, my feelings are rational at a deeper layer than logic.
Rational at a deeper layer than logic. I feel like we need to pause on that, because we usually define rational as logical.
We do. But the text is redefining rationality as alignment with reality. Logic is just a tool for organizing concepts. It can easily organize lies.
How so?
Well, you can create a perfectly logical argument for why you should stay in a job that makes you miserable. The pay is good, the commute is short, the title is prestigious. Logically, A plus B plus C equals stay.
But the body is dying. The body is developing ulcers and insomnia.
Right, so which is more rational? The logic that justifies the toxicity, or the stomach ulcer that is screaming the truth about the environment?
The text would say the ulcer is the rational one.
It's the one actually responding to the reality of the situation.
This reminds me of that concept of the polite lie. The text says something like, when something is false, my body knows before my voice does.
Oh, absolutely. Have you ever agreed to a favor? Maybe helping a friend move or taking on a project you don't have time for.
Yes.
And your mouth says, sure, I'd love to. But at the exact same millisecond, your shoulders slump and your energy just crashes.
The physiological, no, I know it well.
That's the original order. The body registered the lack of alignment instantly. The voice controlled by the social, logical mind wanting to be nice overrode the data.
And the text is warning us, stop overriding the data.
Yeah.
But this brings up a huge fear for me, and I think for a lot of people. If I start listening to every little shift in my gut, every drop in my energy,
Yeah.
am I just going to become too much?
That high-maintenance person.
Yeah. Who can't handle a fluorescent light flickering because it feels off?
The text actually anticipates this critique perfectly. It says, what others call too much is usually just early detection.
I'm not extra, I'm just early. I love that rebrand.
It completely reframes sensitivity. We tend to patronize sensitive people. Oh, be careful around me, he's fragile. But the text argues sensitivity is a form of precision.
Precision, how?
Think about scientific scales. A truck scale that weighs 18-wheelers isn't sensitive. It won't notice if you throw a brick on it.
Okay.
But a jeweler's scale, that will notice if you add a feather.
Yeah.
Is the jeweler's scale weak?
No, it's highly precise. It's built to detect nuance.
So being sensitive means you are picking up on subtle misalignments before they become giant, obvious problems.
I notice subtle misalignments before they become visible problems.
Exactly. If you are the sensitive person on your team, you're the smoke detector. You smell the smoke 3 hours before the fire is visible.
And usually people get annoyed at the smoke detector. They're like, why are you beeping? I don't see any fire. You're being dramatic.
Until the building burns down. The text says, discomfort is information, not failure. That's a mantra we should probably tattoo on our forearms.
Discomfort is information, not failure. That's huge. Because I definitely treat discomfort as failure.
We all do.
If I'm uncomfortable in a conversation, I assume I'm failing at being social. If I'm uncomfortable in my body, I'm failing at being healthy.
But if you shift that perspective, if discomfort is just a red light on the dashboard, then the question changes.
It's not what is wrong with me.
It's what is this telling me about the environment?
It turns it into a status report.
Yes.
Yes.
If you put your hand on a hot stove, the pain isn't a moral judgment. It's just high-speed information. Move your hand.
Right.
If you are in a relationship where you feel constantly diminished, that discomfort isn't a sign you need to be tougher. It's a sign that the reality is resisting your truth.
Okay, but here's the practical rub. If I become this highly precise instrument, feeling everything, sensing every distortion, how do I not get crushed by the world?
Because the world is loud and messy.
Exactly. If I'm soft and open, won't I just get overwhelmed?
This is where the text talks about boundaries and coherence, and it's really important for anyone listening who identifies as an empath.
Okay.
The text says, care is not attachment. Nurturing does not mean losing myself.
I can hold space without dissolving into it?
That's the distinction. Dissolving means you lose your structure.
Hmm.
If the room is sad, you become sad. If the room is frantic, you become frantic. That's incoherence.
You've lost your own signal.
You have.
Huh.
The text calls the alternative remaining intact. Think of a lighthouse. The lighthouse shines a light on the ocean. It reveals the waves. It sees the storm.
But it does not jump into the water and drown with the ships.
It holds its position. It holds its coherence. The text says, my femininity is coherent. It creates continuity, not confusion.
A laser is coherent light.
Exactly. All the waves moving in sync. A light bulb is incoherent, waves going everywhere. The text suggests that when you trust your feelings, you actually become more coherent. You aren't fighting yourself.
And the text claims this state of coherence is actually powerful. It moves reality toward balance without needing dominance.
It's a different model of power. We're used to power over. Dominance, I will force you to agree with me.
Right.
Coherence is power with or power within. It just is. It vibrates at a frequency of truth, and reality tends to organize around it.
It's like the difference between pushing a pendulum to make it stop versus just stopping your own hand so the pendulum naturally settles.
That's a great image. I do not need to harden to be real.
Yeah.
I do not need to soften to be accepted.
That's a liberation right there. I feel like most of us toggle between those two modes all day.
We do.
We harden up to be taken seriously at work, put on the armor, and then we soften up to be liked in our personal lives, become the pleaser.
And the text says, no, just be coherent.
I remain intact.
That is the ultimate goal of this architecture.
Yeah.
To feel deeply, to measure accurately, to sense the distortion, but to remain structural, to not break.
It's a really powerful way to look at what it means to be a human being navigating a messy world.
Yes.
We started this deep dive thinking about feelings as these annoying little gremlins that trip us up.
And we've arrived at seeing them as a high-fidelity guidance system.
A guidance system that is rational, precise, and structural. It really changes how I want to walk through my day tomorrow. When that glitch happens, that feeling of something's wrong.
You don't want to shove it down.
No, I want to read the meter.
You want to read the meter. And remember, and this is crucial, you don't need to justify the reading. The text ends on this very empowering note. My feelings do not need to be justified to exist. They're already part of how reality communicates with me.
That's the mic drop.
Yeah.
You don't need to write a dissertation on why you feel sad. The sadness is the message.
The message has been delivered. The only question is whether you will check the mail.
So, to everyone listening, here is the takeaway. You might have spent years trying to upgrade your logic, your arguments, your rational mind.
You've polished the software.
And that's great, but this source suggests you have a supercomputer sitting right in your chest or your gut that you've been treating like a distraction.
Your sensitivity isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's your early detection system.
And your discomfort isn't a flaw, it's data.
Pure data.
So we want to leave you with a thought to carry with you this week. We've talked about how feelings are faster than logic.
And how they are rational at a deeper layer.
So ask yourself this. If your feelings are actually a high-speed data stream that is faster than your logic, what illogical feeling have you been ignoring that might actually be the most rational data point you have?
What does your body know that your mind hasn't admitted yet?
That's the question. Thanks for diving in with us.
It's been a pleasure.